Hi everyone, welcome to Music Production, a free course. The second topic is your digital audio workstation, also called DAW. What you see here on the screen is Logic Pro. So I'm using a MacBook Air, and a MacBook Air comes with Logic Pro. You have to buy it and then you can download it in the App Store. Logic Pro is one of the many possible DAWs that exist. Let's have a look. So if I write DAW list music production, you can see it here. Ableton Live is, for example, a DAW that helps you to mix music during a live concert. You got Cubase, it's a DAW. Then Pro Tools, Logic Pro, and over here you see also GarageBand and so on. So there are many DAWs. GarageBand, for example, is for free. If you buy a MacBook Air, you can download GarageBand. It's over here. Actually, I'm recording something in GarageBand. So everything I say, this course is recorded in GarageBand. All the music or the sound of my screen goes in here. Everything I say goes in here. On this track is on this track. And why am I recording on two different tracks? Later on, I will put a side compressor here on the screen. Sound, everything I recorded over here, and I will connect it to the microphone. So every time I talk, the volume of the screen sound will be reduced. So if I'm playing some music here and I start talking, the volume of that music will go down so you can still understand what I'm saying. So that's running on my computer at this right moment. Why do I record in GarageBand? Because all my demonstrations are in Logic Pro. So I can, for example, play this song.
I am what I am.
And then you can see in GarageBand
What you want.
that it's recorded over here. You see it appear here.
Fighting for space. The earth is still spinning.
You could wonder, like, why would I buy Logic Pro if GarageBand is for free? There is a reason. GarageBand is a simpled down version of Logic Pro. So there are more possibilities in Logic Pro. You could wonder, why not just use Pro Tools? It's very well known. A lot of professional mixers use Pro Tools. Why am I, for example, using Logic Pro? It's easy. I have a MacBook and Logic Pro is also from Apple. The MacBook is from Apple and Logic Pro is from Apple. When the MacBook is updated to a new version, to a new software version, Logic Pro will be updated to a new version, and it will still work. I can still open my music projects. That's not always the case if you use Pro Tools, because Pro Tools is not from Apple. So my computer gets an update and then Pro Tools doesn't work anymore, and I might have to wait several months even before I get the right update that makes it possible for me to open Pro Tools again. Another reason is why I use Logic Pro and not Pro Tools is that Pro Tools is empty. Let me show this to you. When you click, I will open a new file. It will make it clear, like, okay, I am opening in Logic Pro a new file. This is my track. I can start recording music here. When I click here, at the left side here, I'm at the left side. If you want to record your vocal, it might be in mono, you just click here. That's stereo, that's mono. Mono means it's an instrument with only, you're recording it with one microphone. So I'm going to put it on stereo for the moment. So all the stereo plugins will still work. What are plugins? Look at that. In Logic Pro, there are a lot of plugins, and plugins, you should see it as tools to shape your sound. You got amps, you can use them for the guitars. You got delays. You got over here, for example, let's see, where is it? Reverb. A delay and reverb works well together. Then for dynamics, you have a compressor. You have a multi-pressor, 4 bands. You have a limiter. Lots of EQ to choose from. Channel EQ. So it's a toolbox, and every time there's not just one tool. If you want to shape your EQ, you have lots of options to choose from. When you see like, oh, there's only one compressor, where are the others? That's because within the compressor, you have different types of compressors. So the MacBook Air software works well together with the Logic Pro software, and Logic Pro is filled with all these tools, all these plugins. And that's not the case when you buy Pro Tools. Pro Tools is as good as empty. There are hardly any tools at all in it. You still have to buy them, and Pro Tools doesn't sell them, so you have to buy them from another company again. Which means you might have a Windows computer, you might have Pro Tools, and then the tools inside this are from another company again. So if the Windows computer is updating, Pro Tools will not work anymore. Once you have an update for Pro Tools, the tools inside Pro Tools, the plugins might not work anymore. My mixes, I will open it again for a moment, are all made just with the plugins, with the tools available in Logic Pro. So you can have a professional mix just using the plugins that are available. There is only one thing I bought, one plugin I bought, and that's Ozone 10. Ozone 10, and when I click here, you have all the plugins that are available in Logic Pro. And if you scroll down all the way to the end, to audio units, that's where you see the things you've bought yourself. I bought Trigger from Steven Slade. It's not on. I didn't use it for this mix, but I did use Ozone 10 to master the song. So I bought it. It's a separate buy, and I installed it, and I can then open it as a plugin, just like all the other plugins. It's just a third-party plugin. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to make sure is that you understand that if you buy something, ask yourself, what am I buying? So if you buy an Apple computer and Logic Pro is from Apple and all the tools in it are from Apple, then the updates are synchronized. I think it's important, so that's why I switched from Pro Tools to Logic Pro. Another thing I want to show you is this is a console, an old console, a mixing console. Why do I say old? Because it's analog gear. And these are all strips. I'm not sure, I'm trying to look. So this here is one channel strip. And this here is the second channel strip. This one is the third channel strip. They're all equal. They're all copies of each other. So it looks like a big machine, but in fact it's a channel strip, and then it's copied like 50 times or 96 times. I think the biggest console had 96 or about 100 of those identical strips. When you open a new project here in Logic Pro, you go to New, you open a new project. you add a track, you will see that if you go here where you see Sense, that you can go to Bus. A bus is the same thing as a channel strip. You have 256 buses. So when you compare it to the old console, because it gives you a visual representation, then a bus is like one strip. Bus number 2 is the second strip. And the tools I showed you, like the compressor and the EQ and the reverb and so on, you can compare it to the original hardware on the racks. So you might have compressors and reverb. These were all hardware machines. And so you had the vocal sounding, and then the vocal was wired with a real cable to, for example, one of these compressor racks, and then it came back into another channel strip. And then the vocal might also have been routed to a reverb rack and might have been with a cable channeled back into one of the other channel strips. So a channel strip, in fact, is, I always compare it to pipes. Imagine you are a plumber and there is a building and there is no water in it yet, nothing at all. And they said, could you set up a water system? You start in the basement, and then on the first floor we need water.
Yeah, and we need central heating in every room, radiators everywhere.
And we need water going into the bathroom. So you have to, you need a lot of pipes, and you have to connect those pipes so the water can be routed through the whole building.
And also routed out of the building. The water has to come in somewhere, and it also has to leave somewhere.
So that's what you're doing. In fact, you're routing your music with those buses through this program. It's empty for the moment. There is nothing in it. In the end, when all your routings are ready, it looks like this. So this is my song, I Am What I Am. And I dragged the drums in over here.
And then I opened up
a lot of buses. And those buses all end up over here in the pre-master of the drums. That's where the routing system of the drums comes to an end. The solo treatment of the drums comes to an end here. Then the drums will still move on to the exit. But I altered the sound of the drums only here. It starts here.
And then it goes through a lot of buses. I've created a whole routing system. You see that?
And it comes out here. So the buses are in fact the pipes. And the tools, you will see that in every pipe, have a look over here while I scroll down. In every pipe or every bus, there is another plugin. So if I keep going down, you will see the plugins change. Sometimes you might see the same plugin, but it will have different settings. So you have a lot of pipes, and every pipe contains one plugin that alters the sound, and then it all comes together over here. And I do this for every instrument. This is the bass. I will make the sound of the bass go through a lot of buses. It's always a copy of the sound. So it starts over here. The sound goes in bus 33. The sound goes of the bass goes in bus number 34. It's always a copy of the bass. So if the bass is one glass of water, then the moment you open a bus, you create a copy. That's one times the sound of the bass, second time the sound of the bass, third time sound of the bass, fourth time sound of the bass. It's all copies. And then they come together in the pre-master of the bass. That's the end of the solo treatment. I've altered the sound of the bass, and that's the end of that altering. And then it will go to the exit. I will lead the bass sound, that altered bass sound, to the exit. To make sure you fully understand it, I will give a clearer demonstration. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to open it again. So, wait. So I open a new one. You see, brand new, nothing in it, is it? So it looks like this. That's where you start. First thing you have to check is in settings, audio. If you go to recording, if it's 24-bit, if you are going to record a vocal, you want it to be recorded 24-bit. Why, you could wonder? Well, cassettes, you remember cassettes? A very old thing. Music was first delivered on cassettes and they were 8-bit. That means if this is the noise floor where all the hissing is, 8-bit means you're still close to the noise floor when you record at 8-bit. And that's why the cassettes had that hissing sound permanently on. Then it changed into records. And records were at 12-bit, a little bit further away from the noise floor, so there was less hiss in it. And then we had CDs, the compact disc, and the compact disc was recorded at 16-bit. That's quite far away from the noise floor already. It's far. Is it far enough away from the noise floor? Maybe, maybe not. 24-bit is definitely far enough away from the noise floor. If you record a vocal, you don't have to search anymore for the maximum recording volume. And normally, when you record at 16-bit, you will record it as loud as possible and hope it will not clip. So if you record something, I will show it in GarageBand, you should be sure that it's not clipping. Look at that. This wave is not touching at all the top and is not touching at all here, the bottom. If it would touch it, I would have distortion. You can see I'm recording far below the maximum possible volume. That's because I'm recording at 24-bit and I'm so far away from the noise floor that I can just record it at a medium level. In this way, there's no risk that I go too loud and there is distortion on it. There's no distortion on this recording. I'm far away from the maximum volume I could record it at. You see the music here, the music I play, if I turn on the song, is a little bit away from the side. So it's also not clipping. That's because the song is mixed that way. So when I turn it on, it's mixed in a way.
We're tigers in a cage.
If I open this here, it's -1 true peak. So I'm 1 dB away from clipping. 0 would be the maximum, and if I go over 0, it would clip. So this song is set to be a little bit away from clipping. And that's what you see when you see my recording in GarageBand. That's what you see, that I'm a little bit away from the sides from clipping. So thanks to 24-bit, no problem anymore. You can just, so you put it on 24-bit and then when you start recording, everything is all right. Now, what with the music? Sometimes the music is delivered on stems. What's a stem? It means it was recorded somewhere else and they send it to you. If you right-click on it, these are the grouped drums. This is the electric bass, the acoustic piano, the resonator guitar of the song I just played for you. If you go to Show Information, you will see when you go down here that it's a stereo drum. It's 44.1 kilohertz and the bit rate sample is 16. So this drum is not 24-bit. Is that a problem? No. So I'm going to record my vocal over here, 24-bit, and when I drag in the drums, they will automatically be converted to 24-bit. The quality is still 16-bit, but it's converted to 24-bit. So all the music within this template is 24-bit. There is no other bitrate. There is another thing you have to do when you start. I should have done it before I dragged in. This song is only at 80 beats per minute. And I'm not sure what the key is. Let's see. It's F major. So you put it in F major. This song is in F major. You could wonder, why do I have to do all this? It's because if you want to use one of the loops, there are loops here, and you drag them in, they will adapt themselves to your key and BPM setting. If you set it incorrectly, the loop will not measure itself up with the tempo of your music. And there is another reason. You can also have, I have a drum now, but you could create a drum. Let's see for a moment. I'm going to turn off tempo and signature, marker, signature. Okay, I only keep arrangement on. So you can add something on the top here that follows, hey, like a verse, chorus. Let's see, this might be another verse, and this might be another chorus, and this might be the bridge, and this might be a verse again, and this might be a chorus. So you adapt it to the structure of your song, and if you then right-click, you can go to New Drummer Track, and then it creates a drummer for you. And then you have to find out a bit yourself. You have lots of drummers over here in all kinds of styles. So you can mute your recorded drummer and you can replace it by one of the drummers that are available in Logic Pro. I'm going to delete it because I'm not going to use the drummer of Logic Pro. Questions now. How do you mix this? This is the music of the song. Just the audio, the lead is missing, but this is the music. I got the drums, the bass, the piano, and the guitar. Let me give you an example. The drums, that's the track of the drums. As you can see, it goes straight to stereo out. What's stereo out? I will show it. If you right click here and you say show, then you got here an extra track and it's called the master or the stereo out track. This is where all sound comes together. The drums are routed. If I click on it, you can see it to the stereo out. The electric bass goes to the stereo out. The acoustic piano goes to the stereo out, and the guitar goes to the stereo out. Let's see, I'm going to show automation. Then we see a bit better what's going on. All right. I don't want my drum sound to go to the stereo out, at least not immediately. So what am I going to do? I'm going to close the output, no output. If I play the drum sound now, you hear nothing at all. You see that? It's gone, the sound. Why? Because it's trapped inside the track. There is no exit. I want that. To control the sound when you're mixing, you have to close the exit and then you open a bus. I'm going to open, for example, bus number 1. And I'm going to put in that bus number 1 a compressor. And I'm also going to open bus number 2. And I'm going to put in that bus number 2 also a compressor. If I press play, you don't hear anything at all yet. Why? Because I added the bus, but I still have to open the door of that bus. Let's put it on 0 because you can open the door more than 100%. So I open the door, look at that. Bam. Now you will hear sound. Why? Because the sound that was trapped over here goes into bus 1, goes into bus 1, goes through the compressor. And there is also a copy of the sound going into bus 2, going through this compressor. I will move this compressor a bit so we are not confused. Wait. Okay, so compressor number 1, compressor number 2. Now it's also, we can see it in a visual way. I'm going to now compress a little bit. What? That's not it. Here it is. I have a chart. I made that chart beforehand. And my dry sound of the drums is going through a compressor, and the settings of that compressor, I can read it on the chart, are, let's have a look. First of all, I have to choose Studio VCA as a compressor. Good choice. VCA compressors are very often used for low instruments like drums or a bass guitar. I turn the auto function off, the auto gain off, so off. And then I'm going to use for the attack time 10 milliseconds. It's already there nearly. Let's see. And then 120 for the release time. The ratio I will put on 4:1. And I'm going to make the compressor compress 3 dB. I have to turn it on. It's about 3 dB, so that's already set and done. The second compressor, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to choose Vintage Opto. Attack time 35, release time 200 milliseconds. I'm going to turn the auto off and the auto gain off. Auto means that it decides itself what the release time is going to be. I don't want that. I want to set it myself. I put it on 3, 2, 1. Now I want 2 dB of compression. So I have to lower the threshold a bit. Okay, there I go. The knee. What's the knee exactly? The knee is how fast it should respond. This is my dry sound. So I want the knee to respond quite quickly. You see, there is no knee here, but if you choose another one, you can set the knee to fast. And then the second compressor, that was the Vintage Opto one. I will set the knee to 4, a bit slower. And I only wanted 2 dB of compression. Okay. Now, I'm going to make this bus visible for you. So I'm going to right click on it, create track. Here it is. So I'm going to say this is bus 1. Then this one. And I'm going to do create track. Oh, here it is. And that's bus 2. Now I'm going to put them in the right order, like this. You can already see bus 1 is going straight to stereo out, and bus 2 is going to stereo out. Stereo out is this one. I can't move it up. So this bus goes here, and this bus goes here, and you can already see it's overloaded. Why? Because this is a copy of the sound, and this is another copy of the sound. You turned 1 glass of water into 2 glasses of water, and then you pour those 2 glasses of water into this 1 glass stereo master out. So that's why it's overloaded. It's distorted. It goes over 0. So what are you going to do? You are going to lower the faders to, for example, -5. And you will see it fits perfectly again into the master channel. Do I want this? Do I want the sound to go straight to the master? No, I don't want this. So I'm going to route it to bus number 3. I'm going to route bus number 2 to bus number 3. And I'm going to make bus number 3 visible. This is bus 3, and I will call it a dry compressed drums. So this is your group drums. It's not compressed yet. It's a dry compressed group drums. The recording is dry. And this dry sound goes through compressor number 1. Compressor number 1 focuses on the attack of the sound. It should be this compressor. And compressor number 2 is focusing more on the sustain of the sound. And they come together over here in bus number 3. What are we going to do now? We are going to open more buses. Bus number 4, bus number 5, bus number 6, and so on. What am I going to do with all these buses? I'm going to put stereo delay in it. I'm going to put reverb in it. And I'm going to lead. I will show it maybe in the other track that I made. Here. So you can see it's the same thing. Compressor 1 and compressor are just different buses. Compressor 1 is in bus 3, compressor 2 is in bus 4, and they come together in bus 27. So when it comes to buses, all buses are identical. So it's not that you have to use bus 1 first and then bus number 2. You can choose whatever bus. What I did is the drums, I use bus number 1 to 30. So it makes it it gives a little bit of an oversight. And for the bass, I used bus number 31 to 60. But you can use whatever bus. They're all equals. They're all pipes and they're all equal. So the dry sound is coming together. And then I created a lot of delays and reverbs and so on. And they also come together in one bus. So all the wet sound, that's what we call it, delays and reverbs, all these buses come together in one bus. And then I create the same kind of split. The first wet compressor is in bus number 5. The second wet compressor is in bus number 6. So that's the same kind of split we had over here for the dry sound. So I created first a few plugins that make the sound wet, and then I lead it into one bus and I create that same kind of split to control the wet sound. I compress the dry sound more than the wet sound. So that's why we split dry and wet from each other. So the dry sound has a bit more compression on it than the wet sound. And you also see that the settings are a bit different. For example, at the wet compressor, I will use 12 milliseconds here, 45 milliseconds here. So it's a little bit loose. It's a little bit more freedom. It will sound. You don't control the wet sound as much as you control the dry sound. All right, let's listen to these drums. The way it's constructed. So the sound goes through compressor number 1, goes through compressor number 2, and then comes together over here before it goes to the pre-master. So this is the dry sound. Now we add wet sound. These are all the delays and all the reverbs. You can see there is a lot going on here. I will focus on it later. And then it sounds as if the drum has space attached to it, doesn't it?
We're tigers in a cage.
So this is the wet sound. I'll turn it up. So that's what makes the sound wet, and all the rest makes the sound. And that's the dry sound over here. Okay. I think that clears it up, isn't it? You have a DAW, it's an empty box. You still have 250 pipes, so to say, buses. You have to link them together to create a template, a mixing template. And that mixing template, you have to fill it with tools, with plugins to alter the sound. Yeah, the way you do it determines how your song will sound in the end. You could wonder, like, why is there no template already in Logic Pro? Why do I have to build this myself? I got 250 buses I have to link together, and then I have to put plugins everywhere and add settings to the plugins. I don't know. I don't know why, for example, my template seems like a decent template, but I had to build it myself, and it took some time to understand why I had to close all the outputs so the sound would not go straight into to the master. And you have to close it, and then you have to open buses. I didn't know all that. It's pretty weird. It's an empty box. There's nothing in it, and yeah, that's the way it is. So you have to construct your template yourself. And that's why I show you a little bit how to do it. So every time you have a bus, this is for example bus 10, and you open new buses in it, nearly always you have to block the output. Don't open the output. It will be like this, stereo output, and it will go straight to the master, to the exit. This means one copy of your sound goes to the exit, and all the rest, and these are all other copies. So you process the sound over here, but there is an unprocessed part also going to the master. You don't want that. You want to have control. So you open buses, you put plugins in them, and then you lead the sound back. In the end, it all ends up, of course, in that master, but that's only here. When I reach the pre-master of the drums, you can see it goes to one more bus, and then it goes to the stereo out. So I'm nearly there. So you have to create a routing system and use plugins. There are a lot of videos online about the settings of the plugins. If you want to know settings for channel EQ or for Space Designer, there's a lot of explanation about all the different settings. You can find it very easily. What you can't find is how to set up a template, how to build a template. So that's why I wanted to show it to you. If you have a MacBook Air computer and you have Logic Pro, you can build with buses a routing system, your own template. You can't do it in GarageBand. So GarageBand is for free, but it's a simple down version, and there are no buses. So there is no spot here that you can open, and you don't have 250 buses. There's nothing. The sound always immediately goes to the master, to the stereo master output. So all the sounds, you can just alter the sound a little bit here you can put some plugins in serial, and then the sound always goes immediately to the output. And that's not what we normally do. Have a look. When I open the bass, there is nothing here. There's hardly anything here. There's just a side compressor connected to the kick of the drums, and that's it. So some will not have anything on. Here's an enveloper on. It takes a little bit, shaves a little bit of the attack of the piano. But normally, you don't alter the sound here. You don't put a lot of plugins in serial and immediately go to the stereo output. No, you close the output. You don't put anything here. I can turn it off if you want to. And you open a bus, and then you start working. From that bus on, you have compressors to compress the dry sound. You create a lot of things that make the sound wet, and then you open two compressors to make that wet sound, to compress that wet sound. So that's how you do it. You have to create a routing system. And why does it sound better than GarageBand? What is exactly the the secret behind the fact that a mix with all these buses sounds better than a mix where you just route the sound immediately towards the exit. I think you can compare it with an orchestra. Have you ever seen an orchestra? You have first violins, second violins, third violins, cello players, some bass players, sometimes even some woodwinds and coppers. And it sounds very rich and full, an orchestra. Why is that? It's because every violin player has a different violin. And the color of every violin is different. And that blend creates a rich and dense sound. Compare it to a string quartet. If you have a string quartet, you only have a violin player for the high violin, another violin player that plays the low violin. Then you have a viola and a cello. 1, 2, 3, 4. It sounds less dense. It's just 4 instruments. It doesn't sound as rich as a full orchestra. It can sound as loud as a full orchestra because you play that music on your own music device. You decide with the knob, the volume knob, how loud something sounds. So you can turn up the volume so the string quartet sounds as loud as the full orchestra. You can make the full orchestra sound very, 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 very soft. Just turn the volume knob to the left and turn it, then it sounds soft. So it's not about a volume because after the music is turned into a recording, you decide yourself what the volume is. It's about the richness of color. The same thing happens every time you open a copy of the sound. Every time you open a bus, you open a copy of the sound, you create a copy of the sound, and you alter the sound in every bus in a different way. Like you have a compressor in bus 3, another compressor in bus 4, you have another compressor in 7, another compressor in 8. Then in 10 you have lots of extra buses. So there are a lot of things going on here, like ping pong delay left, ping pong delay right, slapback delay, a half measure delay, some reverb. It seems there is reverb on top of the instrument. It's a wormhole and it's a plate. And there's also reverb that's linked to the left ping pong delay and to the right ping pong delay. So I create copies, and every copy alters the sound in a different way, and then you bring it together. This means that you have that same like with the orchestra. Instead of a string quartet, every time you open a bus, you double the amount of instruments. So if I have a violin recording and I open a bus, I got in fact 2 violins. They play exactly the same thing, but the color of the second violin is a bit different because I put a different plugin in the second bus. If I open bus number 3 and I put another plugin in bus number 3, then my 1, 2, 3, then I got 3 violins, and they all have their different sounds. So that's what happened. You enrich the sound by creating copies and altering the sound in every copy in a different way and then blending it back together. It's also comparable, for example, have a look here. These are the backing vocals. This is the loudest one, so you only hear the female, don't you? Listen for a moment, I will put it here.
I am what I am. You are what you are.
You hear the girl?
With dogs fighting for a bone and a yacht.
So here you hear a male voice and you hear a girl singing. What you don't hear is this.
You are what you are.
I'm going to turn the girl off.
Fighting.
You hear it now? I'll put it louder for you. You hear that? I created singers who are singing the same thing as the lead, and they all have a different color. For example, this is a different male. So this male off here.
For a bone in the arm. Come on, let go. I'm not the enemy.
You hear that? This guy has a different...
It's time to forfeit all animals. With friends in the
So you have the female voice, and then you have another female, like it's another recording. So if you have like 5 or 6 recordings from a singer, that's good. You can use it to create a choir that sounds in the background. And if you have another person in the room, make that person sing the same as the lead too, different male too. So I got 2 different male voices singing the same thing as the lead in unisono. I got a female, another track of the female, and so on. So that's what you don't hear. The lead sounds powerful. You think like, oh, that's a full lead. Hey, he has a good full voice. That's because he has that whole choir, this choir, singing behind it. And you don't hear it because it falls away in the mix, but it's there.
bone in the yard. Come on, let go.
Turn the girl on again.
I'm not the enemy. It's time to forfeit all animosity.
If I turn it off,
We're friends in the end. Don't you forget, no man will come between us.
still sounds, but you don't have the support. It's of course done in rock music too. A rock guitar, if you hear that distortion, you think, oh, that's such a full guitar. It sounds so full, that guitar. That's because it's not one guitar. You have the distorted guitar, and then they made the guitarist play the same thing on an acoustic guitar, on a dry, not distorted or a crunchy electric guitar, and so on. So there might be 6 guitars you're actually hearing, and there's only one where the volume is loud, and the other volumes of the other guitars are blended in very softly, so you don't notice it are in fact 6 guitars. And that's the same thing with the buses. By the moment you open a bus and you put a certain plugin in it, you create a copy of the sound and you alter the sound within that bus. And you do the same thing in the next bus. So you turn very slowly, you have that orchestra effect where the mix sounds very full and stable, and you have the feeling like, wow, that's a good band. That's a full band. It sounds so full. It's thanks to all those buses. So you can't mix in GarageBand because you don't have any buses at all. So you don't enrich the sound the way you can with buses. The whole thing with the buses is also called parallel. So if you hear, if you're listening to videos of mixing engineers and they say, I added a compressor parallel is always you open a bus. And then if you say, oh, some reverb, you added parallel, it means you open a bus and you put a plugin in it with reverb to give some reverb to the sound. Okay, so listen to it. I think you agree it sounds full.
Yeah, what I am, you are what you are. We're Buddhists in a temple. Silence is our God. No.
So that's what I mean. So you have every instrument in this DAW has the dry sound is compressed separately, and then I create some plugins that create a wet sound, and then I compress that wet sound and I bring it all together in the pre-master of the piano or the pre-master of the guitar, and then it goes to the master finally. That's how it goes to the master, where the music all comes together. So I'm not going to enlarge the subject anymore. I just wanted to show you why the choice of your DAW is very important. Like, this is very expensive. Are you going to buy a console, and are you going to buy, instead of plugins, are you going to buy all these hardware machines? I wouldn't do it because it's Logic Pro. I think I paid about $400 for it. So, and then you have all these hardware things and you have the console all together in one computer. Isn't that wonderful? And you can reuse it. So it's very easy for me. I can use the same compressor like 20 times, spread out over all my buses. I don't need 20 of those machines. I can just use the compressor as many times as I want. And then the last thing is, preferably you choose a computer, like an Apple computer, with a program like Logic Pro that is also made by the same company. And preferably that program like Logic Pro is filled with plugins that you can use to shape the sound. And and if you're not satisfied with what they have to offer, you can still download, you can still buy extra plugins like I did, like I bought Ozone 10 from Isotope. And that's it. That's the video about the DAW, your digital audio workstation.